Welcome, folks. Up next, we have Randy Wells with Elutia Incorporated.
Thank you. Thank you all. Randy Mills, I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of Elutia. We are a publicly traded company, so I am going to start with the very famous, very fun, forward-looking statements. Basically, it says we have risk factors that are on file with the Securities and Exchange Commission. You should read those risk factors before making an investment decision in our company. So just a little bit about what Elutia is and where we come from. Our mission, humanizing medicine so that patients can thrive without compromise. And over the course of the presentation, I'll be adding some more detail and structure around what exactly that means. But Elutia is a very real company. So we're a commercial stage company with $25 million in revenue. We have two high growth proprietary product platforms, our own manufacturing facility, and actually we're poised for even accelerated growth beyond that. So our two proprietary product platforms are our Kangaroo platform, which is used to stabilize and integrate pacemakers that are implanted under the skin. And our second is SimpliDerm, which is essentially the same role, but in breast reconstruction in women who going through mastectomy. And what we're doing at the company that's unusual and unique and value creating is we're actually pioneering the drug-eluting biologic or the drug-eluting biomatrix to solve surgical problems that so far don't have any solution with current technology. We expect FDA clearance of our first drug-eluting biologic called Kangaroo RM this quarter, actually in the June timeframe. And that's a product that's going to be unleashed, and I'll talk more about these dynamics, but it's going to be unleashed into a very, very favorable market dynamic, and it's a product that has a market potential of about $600 million. So before we get started, let me talk a little bit where Elutia comes from. So a little bit about my background. I come out of the University of Florida. When I was at the University of Florida, I was fortunate enough to invent some technology. We spun that technology out along with some other great people, including Jamie Grooms, and we started a company called Regeneration Technologies, or RTI. And RTI goes on and becomes actually pretty darn successful. Over 5 years, we grow from 5 people and nothing to 600 people and $150 million in revenue. And RTI exists today as a strong company. We took the company public, and it was a great, wonderful way to start. After there, I went on and became CEO of Osiris Therapeutics. Same sort of thing at Osiris. The company had been around for a while, was floundering a little bit. We got its act together, commercialized a number of first-in-class products, took the company public, went on and did some great things. Ultimately, the company gets acquired by Smith & Nephew for $660 million. During the time when I was at Osiris, there weren't a lot of commercially successful companies in the regenerative medicine space. And there was one that was particularly good. It was advanced biohealing. And that's how I got to meet my dear friend, Kevin Rakin, and my partner in this. He goes on and sells advanced biohealing to Shire for $750 million. And we are sitting literally in New York one day thinking about what are we going to do, with the rest of our lives. I had spent the first 20 years between RTI and Osiris, and he had spent time at Genesance and ABH. And we said, you know what? We learned a lot in this process. Let's do it again. Let's start another company that focuses real unmet medical needs in the regenerative medicine space. And so that's where we came up with the first iteration of this company called Azeo. And we went out and we got a management team and put some different assets together and set them to work. And they did a nice job. But the company ultimately, for our taste, got a little bit diffuse with regards to its vision. And we felt like we needed to clean it back up. And so we made a very conscious decision to come back into the company and take hold. So that's why about 2 years ago, I came back in as interim CEO, kind of fell in love with it, and decided let's actually change this company and clean it up. That's where we made this transition from Azeo, which has been around since like 2014, to Elutia today. So if you look at the companies, Elutia is a very focused version of Azeo. Azeo had 30 different product lines in 4 distinct markets. mix of different distribution models, OEM, direct, partners, all kinds of different stuff. While it's true we had $48 million in revenue, we had very, very little growth associated with this. And if we were to say, hey, what does a ZEO do? I would have to say, well, how long do you have? Because it's going to take a while. We made then the decision to sell off all of the different assets that we thought weren't creating growth and really pare it down to just two things: the cardiac rhythm management business and the breast reconstruction business, the Kangaroo and SimpliDerm products that I mentioned. We sell now direct in those. We have $25 million in revenue, and we have really spectacular growth. SimpliDerm is on its own is growing at 38%, and we're about to launch this drug-eluting biologic that's gonna have explosive growth in the CRM space. So it's a very, very focused story, specifically now on this concept of the drug-eluting biologic, and I'll explain sort of what that means. So we as a company exist at the interface between long-term implantable devices and the patient. So almost any device that's implanted long-term will have a series of very predictable complications. This picture you can see migration. So in the case of a pacemaker will literally migrate down the patient's chest wall. Erosion, anytime you implant the device, you'll get a foreign body response. It can lead to erosion of that device. There's obviously infection, and then there's pathological fibrosis, contracture, which can happen as, again, a foreign body response. And if you look at the two markets that we're in, pacemaker or CIED space and breast reconstruction, we're seeing these in the pacemaker 5 to 7% of the time you end up with one of these complications. In breast reconstruction, it's a staggering 12 to 20% of the time. And we thought, you know what? We have the background and sophistication where we can actually go in and make a pretty significant difference in this space. And so that's what we've done. Our answer to that is by taking traditional biologics, which have been around for a long, long time now, 50 years, and actually upgrading them with the addition of active therapeutics, and adding to them a pharmaceutical payload kind of changes the game, because you can have all of the benefits of a regenerative medicine product, but with the activity of a pharmaceutical ingredient, such as the addition of things like rifampin and minocycline, which can almost completely eliminate the chance of post-operative infection. And so that's the space we're in. We're the only ones there. There is no one else working on a drug-eluting biologic, and we love the market dynamics that we're in. You can't have a good idea or a good vision, expect to get it done without a great team. So one of the things that I've been very blessed with in my life, is a career now that it's much longer than I care to recount, is I've picked up some exceptional people along the way and built the team. And the team at Elutia is the best team that I've ever worked with. In addition to my partner, Kevin, who serves as chair, we have Matt Ferguson, is an incredibly experienced CFO from Vauxhall and Avenger. Dr. Michelle Williams, our Chief Scientific Officer, I've worked with her for the last 20 years. She's commercialized some of the most impactful products in the regenerative space, including she is the inventor and the developer of all of the cellularized bone matrix products, Osteocell and Trinity and all of those. Courtney Geyer runs our women health business. She comes from LifeCell and Cordis and the drug-eluting stent business. Kimberly runs our bioenvelope, comes from Medtronic. So a really exceptional team that we've been able to put together. So let's sort of jump into these different products. So the first one is Kangaroo and Kangaroo RM. Again, this is our biological envelope that holds pacemakers in place. So it stabilizes pacemakers and prevents migration and erosion. You guys are eating lunch, so I'll show you some more gross pictures about that. First, understand the market dynamics here, because as much as I'd like to talk to you about the benefits of local drug delivery and biologics, this is really first and foremost a market play. So there's over 500,000 pacemakers and implantable defibrillators that are placed in the United States each year. There's only 4 players in that space. Medtronic has 40% of the market. Boston Scientific and Abbott each have 25% of the market, and Biotronic has 10% of the market. That's the entirety of the pacemaker space, right? And understand that means there's a lot of competition and concentration around being able to acquire customers here. So just kind of keep that in your head. We'll come back to that statistic. So again, we talk about we exist at the device-host interface. So when I talk about their 5 to 7% failure rate, you might think like, well, what could that happen? Again, it happens in very predictable areas. Patients with thin skin, I wonder where that guy's pacemaker is. You can see not only the pacemaker, you can see the wire on the pacemaker. And while unsightly, actually, that sets up the next thing that you see. There's a picture there that actually shows the beginnings of migration and why migration in these types of devices causes such problems. So the arrow is actually the incision where the pacemaker was placed. You can see it is rotated around its chest wall to the axillary region, and it's actually starting to erode through. Where does erosion lead? That is somebody's pacemaker that is dangling outside of their body right now. You put tension on those wires that are making their way into the right ventricle and right atrium. You'll pull on those wires, dislodge the lead, and the pacemaker will do nothing anymore. And then the last is obviously the last of these four big complications is infection. So we looked at this and said, you know what, we actually think we can do better with that. And we made a product to handle things like the thin skin and the erosion. We also went after this concept of fibrosis. And so this picture that you're seeing on the top right, when you implant a pacemaker into somebody just by itself, you get this really aggressive foreign body response. That's what it actually looks like. So when you go to do a change out of the pacemaker, which you got to do every like 5 to 7 years, it is a real problem getting that pacemaker out. You can also see that it's white. It's white because it's fibrotic tissue, and fibrotic tissue is generally avascular. If it's not vascular, it is far more susceptible to infection. And so that's why change-outs of pacemakers have such high post-operative infection rates. On the bottom, you can see when you implant Kangaroo with that, you actually get this completely vascularized pocket that's formed around it. So one of the things that our biological envelope does is encourage vascularization and revascularization of this area. The benefit of that is where blood goes, your immune system goes. And so if there is any postoperative contamination or perioperative contamination, your immune system will be able to remove it. And so that's the benefit of a healthy product. So that's Kangaroo, our base product. We have that product on the market right now. It's doing about $10 million a year in sales. Not knocking the cover off. It's not knocking the cover off the ball. But it's a solid product, and it's a really good product. This is a product that a company called Tyrex introduced back in 2014. It is a synthetic plastic bag that you put a pacemaker in, and that bag dissolves in the patient over time. And as it dissolves, it elutes off antibiotics, right? Actually, 2 antibiotics, rifampin and minocycline. And that also helps prevent postoperative infection. Medtronic saw this product get introduced in 2014 and bought it. And they actually bought it before there was any market for this kind of technology, and they paid $200 million for it back in 2014. That product has since exploded. Medtronic has gone out and made a case to the electrophysiologist that they need to be putting an antibiotic-eluting pouch around their pacemaker to keep their patients from getting a postoperative infection. So they do about $300 million a year in sales of Tyrex, and it's a plastic polymer that elutes antibiotic. That's all it does. But they got it, right? They nailed it. It was good for them. We looked at that and said, all right, that actually is a pretty good idea. And in 2019, we started working on that, but made out of the biologic. So all of the benefits of that biologic pouch, preventing infection and preventing erosion and migration, but adding rifampin and minocycline to it. So instead of having a plastic polymer deliver that, we would actually have a biologic material that would also help create a healthy product. And that's Kangaroo RM, right? And so it's basically the same exact antibiotic-eluting profile of Tyrex, but with all of the benefits of a biologic. So when we did market data on this, we were talking to electrophysiologists that use Tyrex, and 88% of Tyrex users said they would switch some or all of their business to Kangaroo once the product's approved. So that is where we set up this. This is not just a Me Too product in this $600 million market. This is a superior product that's going into a $600 million market. But here's the kind of crazy thing about this market dynamics. Medtronic owns Tyrex. Out of the 4 of these, they are the only one that has an antibiotic-eluting pouch. There is no other pouch. And they've done such a good job marketing Tyrex that now $75 million of Tyrex is used on Boston Scientific and Abbott pacemakers. Right? $75 million of Tyrex is going around a Boston or an Abbott pacemaker, and that is with the rep doing everything they can to keep Tyrex out of it. Okay, so when we look at this, we say, well, if we introduce Kangaroo RM, the one thing that Boston and Abbott and Biotronic can agree on is they would much rather have an Elutia antibiotic envelope around their pacemaker than a Medtronic envelope around their pacemaker, because we don't make a pacemaker and Medtronic does. And the purpose of Medtronic having Tyrex is so they can go get pacemaker business. And so that's why we're very excited about the market dynamics for Kangaroo. We think this product, literally on the day it gains clearance, is worth something like $500 million. And so our pathway to market here, we expect a decision from FDA, and we expect that to be a favorable decision in the second quarter of this year. We are currently preparing for commercial launch. We have our manufacturing facility, which is up and running in Atlanta, preparing for launch of the product. We're taking a tiered approach here. So the first thing we're doing is we're going after our existing Kangaroo customers, the base customers. We have we're on the market at about 350 different centers there. And then we're targeting Abbott and Boston Scientific customers that are currently using Tyrex. When you take the revenue from those two together, it's about $100 million in revenue. From there, we'll eventually go on and take Medtronic's customers and electrophysiologists that don't use an envelope and the like. But we're off to a pretty good start with that relatively low-hanging fruit. Same product will gain approval also in the neurostimulator, sleep apnea spaces, so things like the Inspire product and things for incontinence and other neurostim devices will gain approval as well. So that's our Kangaroo product. That's a big, big deal for our organization, because we expect the approval literally in June of this coming year. Our next product is SimpliDerm. SimpliDerm is a biologic matrix that's used in breast reconstruction. Unfortunately, about 1 in 8 women in the United States will develop breast cancer. When they have breast cancer, they'll oftentimes need to have a mastectomy and have the breast reconstructed. That happens 151,000 times a year. And we make a really, really great product, SimpliDerm, that goes after that market and helps these women. And there's 2 distinct ways which the product is often used: in the subpectoral or the prepectoral position, helping to augment and hold the breast implant in place. This product we launched back in 2019, and it is just growing like it's getting fired out of a cannon. So it's growing at about 40% compound annual growth rate. And the reason it's growing, it's just a great product. The surgeons that use this product have really kind of a really interesting view. And one of the few surgeries where a surgeon implants a product and gets to come back 6 months later and see how it's performed. That's one of the interesting things about breast reconstruction surgery. It's a 2-stage surgery. So if we can get a surgeon to try the product, they come back 6 months later, they see how it's integrated, they're going to go on and become users of that product. And so that's why you see this really steady, somewhat explosive growth in SimpliDerm. We have our own distribution network with SimpliDerm, as we do we sell Kangaroo through our own network as well. Really highly trained, exceptional group. We also developed an early partnership in the early stages of our partnership with a company called Sientra, which has been acquired by Tiger Aesthetics. That's an early partnership on a non-exclusive basis. We'll kind of see how it grows. But everything you've seen here is the work that our own teams have been able to do with this product. And then lastly, to sort of close the loop, we're developing the antibiotic-eluting version of SimpliDerm. So just like we have Kangaroo RM that elutes rifampin and minocycline, we're doing the same thing in breast reconstruction with SimpliDerm RM, SimpliDerm RM is addressing, though, a much bigger problem. Infection complications in the pacemaker space are about 3 to 4% in breast reconstruction. Post-operative breast reconstruction procedures carry a 12 to 20% infection rate. It is absolutely unacceptable, and we think we have a product and the only product that can go after and make a meaningful dent in that number. So I will stop talking here with this slide and take questions, but Elutia is a very real company. $25 million, our own R&D, manufacturing, and commercial groups, growing very, very nicely. We have our drug-eluting biologic technology platform that we're pioneering. First stop is the pacemaker space with Kangaroo RM. We expect clearance this quarter. It's a $600 million market with phenomenal market dynamics. After that, we have our SimpliDerm product, which is clipping along at a $12 million run rate and growing at 38%. We have an exceptional team of people that have all been there and done that with regards to this kind of technology and taking companies like this, growing them up, and selling them. So with that, I will stop, and if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you. Must have been remarkably clear. Oh, cool. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it.